Hello and welcome back. At the moment, there are 97 missing episodes of Doctor Who from the black and white era between 1963 and 1969, but that might not be the case for much longer. Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. If you are new here, why not think about liking and subscribing to the channel? This is a Doctor Who video. It's not all Doctor Who. It's a lot of cult TV, cult films, unboxings, physical media updates, all that sort of good stuff. So if you enjoy this video, and I really hope you will, I'll do my best to make sure you do, why not stick around by liking and subscribing to the channel? You can do that by clicking this thing, and you can also hold your phone up to this QR code and that will automatically subscribe you to the channel, which is a fantastic thing and will improve your quality of life. It's free, doesn't cost anything. It's a YouTube subscription. It's not like a subscription to a streaming service. Absolutely gratis. It's my gift to you. So please jump on board. Right, Doctor Who. I haven't done a Doctor Who video for quite a while, and I was thinking of doing another episode of News from the Whoniverse, because I'm due one. I think I've done 3 so far. And of course, with Doctor Who off the air for the foreseeable future, there's not a lot of Doctor Who news as such, just bits and pieces. I was going to do an episode leading with the fact that the Matt Smith era has reappeared on BBC 3, a couple of merchandisey things, and maybe a little tag on about some interesting developments in the world of missing Doctor Who episodes. But then I thought I'll just focus on that. I'll just do a one-off random independent video talking about the situation regarding missing Doctor Who episodes and what future there is in the recovery of said episodes. It's a bit of a rewind then, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure that anybody watching this knows. There are 97 episodes missing from the Doctor Who archive at the BBC, and they are episodes from the black and white era of the show, 1963 to 69, William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, the first 2 TV Doctors. And we know why this happened. In the 60s, TV was an ephemeral, here today, gone tomorrow medium. Shows would be made. Some would be kept for historic purposes, I suppose, but a lot of stuff wasn't kept. And the BBC in particular were in the habit of reusing tapes of shows that had been made. They would wipe them and then use the tapes for something else, because at the time, videotape was expensive. BBC, being funded by the public, had to make the best use of its resources. So shows that were felt to be of no further commercial value, once prints had been made and sent abroad, the master tapes would be routinely wiped, and as I said, they would be recorded over. That happened to a lot of Doctor Who in the 60s and into the 70s. In fact, I think we're very fortunate that the number of missing episodes is now under 100. For a long time, it was around 120, 122 missing episodes. And there was a flurry of returns in the 90s and 2000s. I still remember the huge excitement when Tomb of the Cybermen, the missing 1967 Patrick Troughton story, was returned from an archive in Hong Kong. And since then, we've had a few occasional bits and pieces have come back, but the last substantial recovery of old Doctor Who episodes was in 2013, in time for the show's 50th anniversary, when we had the entire Enemy of the World serial returned, and a number of episodes from Web of Fear, the classic Second Doctor battle with the Yeti on the London Underground. Frustrating, of course, because the guy who found the episodes, his name was Philip Morris. He was a character who was a bit of described himself as the Indiana Jones of the TV recovery industry. He has fallen out of the limelight a little bit, and also fallen out of favour, because I think he was posting some fairly hysterical stuff online about more recent Doctor Who over the years. And he would scour the world looking for missing television. Not exclusively Doctor Who, but I think Doctor Who was the sort of number one priority, as I think it probably is for a lot of archivists researching old TV and missing TV and trying to find old episodes of Doctor Who, because they're sort of the mother lode, the holy grail, really. He found a batch of old episodes, and at the time, he maintains to this day that all 6 episodes of The Web of Fear were there when he recovered them. By the time they got back to Britain, episode 3 had gone missing. Episode 3 of Web of Fear is, of course, the first episode to feature Nicholas Courtney as Colonel, later to be Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. So it's very odd and convenient, I suppose, that episode of all of those episodes went missing from the film cans that he recovered. This suggests that it wasn't taken by somebody randomly passing wherever they were stored, but somebody who knew the significance of that episode and filched it for their own purposes. Enemy of the World was recovered in full, and those were the last new returns to the BBC archive. They were quickly released on DVD, and we've sort of been sitting patiently waiting ever since, hoping that more and more episodes would turn up. Philip Morris himself has said that there's more out there, he's got more, he knows that there are more, but as I said, his credibility has been slightly damaged over the last few years. And we've heard mutterings here and there that private collectors have 1 or 2 episodes in their hands, and there are odds and sods floating around here and there. But the question was, when would we ever get to see these episodes if they exist? I think it was Sue Malden, who used to be head of the BBC archive. She has spoken publicly that she knows that there are at least 2 episodes that are out there. I think Paul Venisis of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society has said something to the same effect, that he knows of private collectors who have episodes. However, that's just all gone quiet. We've not heard anything for years, really, other than these little whispers that there's stuff out there somewhere, but nobody can get their hands on them. And I remember when these Philip Morris discoveries were returned back in 2013, there was what they called the Omni rumour, a rumour that was floating around that every missing episode of Doctor Who had been returned, and that when Enemy of the World and Web of Fear were released, that Marco Polo, the classic, well, we hope the classic, missing historical serial from the first season of Doctor Who, had also been returned. It was interesting that these 3 stories were rumoured before the news was officially announced that Enemy and Web had returned. So there may have been some credence that some of Marco Polo had been returned, or all of it. I don't know. All that's lost in the mist of time, really. And I think as the years have rolled by and Doctor Who's continued on TV, I think people have set the rumour aside and thought, well, there's nothing coming back now. And that has seemed to be the case for quite a long time. We've heard these whispers that there's stuff out there, but whether we ever get to see them is another matter. However, things have changed in the last week or so with some quite positive news from Film is Fabulous. This is an organisation which is dedicated to tracking down and restoring and saving old TV and film prints wherever they are. And they've been responsible for the recovery of various odds and sods over the years, random episodes of forgotten TV shows, bits and pieces here and there. I haven't got a huge list of the stuff that they've recovered, because I really wanted to focus on what they've been saying in the last week and where that might take us, rather than looking back at their previous work. But they've done great work in finding old TV and film prints. But they have recently announced that they have now, after a lengthy consultation with the Charity Commission, their application to become a charitable trust and a registered charity has been approved. In accordance with the legal obligations, a board of trustees plus a panel of advisors has been appointed to oversee the delivery of the Trust's 5 primary objectives. Those objectives are to support private film collectors and the UK's film collecting community by providing advice, guidance and practical assistance, to promote the cataloguing of private collections with the requisite permissions and to fulfil the wishes of collectors and their estates, to identify and research missing, rare and culturally important films and to collaborate with the relevant agencies for their preservation, to champion the need for recovered films to be screened widely with affordable licensing agreements through the copyright holders, and to advance and encourage public interest, education and training in film as a medium, especially its role within British culture. Now, this is interesting because this is a catch-all really that puts together a lot of interesting things. They are now, as a charity, responsible for helping find missing or withheld film tapes and prints, and to provide advice and guidance to people who have them about the fact that they have them, the legality of the fact that they have them, and hopefully encouraging these people to release what they have and to disclose what they have. I think a lot of people may have these prints that they found over the years or secured or possibly even stolen. They have these things in their collections, and it's not necessarily the case that they're squirreling them away thinking, I'm the only person who's got this. But they genuinely fear reprisals should they announce that they have episodes of Doctor Who, or The Avengers is another one which is rumoured that there may be 1 or 2 episodes from the very early years. Hopefully what this organisation will now do as a charity is advise people about the legal position, and working with broadcasters and programme makers and so on, copyright holders, assuring them that there won't be any criminal consequences. Basically what they want to do is get these prints recovered, restored and made available for people to see them. And it's it's nice that this organisation now has these stated aims. It is now an open forum that they can discuss with people, they can talk to people who may be sitting on these things genuinely worried about what would happen if they admit that they've got them. And we must also remember that a lot of these prints go back decades now, and it may well be that the people who originally requisitioned them are no longer with us. They may have passed away, and they may be sitting in sheds, in garages, in attics, with the families and estates of these families, not knowing what to do with them and hiding them away, thinking, what can we do with these things? And hopefully they will be encouraged to come forward and say, well, actually, my granddad or my dad had this batch of tapes and reels. We don't know what they are. We don't know what to do with them. We think there's some rare stuff there. Hopefully this will be a central meeting point for all these people to be able to come together without fear of reprisal. I think that's possibly one of the main things. Another issue, of course, I think there probably are some fans who've collected things that like the exclusivity of it, the fact that they are the only ones who have these things. They are the only ones who can watch these things. There may well be somebody out there who's got, for example, Part 4 of The 10th Planet, William Hartnell's final Doctor Who serial. And it's one which has long been missing from the archives. I think it went to the BBC's Blue Peter office years ago for a clip to be used in one of their Doctor Who retrospectives. Didn't go back to the archives and went missing somewhere along the way. Someone somewhere may have that episode and may be watching it even now and thinking, yeah, I can watch this whenever I want, but nobody else can. And I think there are possibly some collectors who have that attitude about these things. It's mine, it's private, it's something I've got that nobody else will see. That attitude, if it exists, and I'm not saying it does, it's just a possibility, that attitude is frustrated because they know that these things are desperately wanted by the fans of these programs. They're desperately wanted by archivists and cultural commentators and observers. People like Film is Fabulous who want to preserve all this stuff because it's part of our culture, it's part of our heritage, part of our landscape, and they should be available for people to see. They're not to be hoarded. They're not things to be sat on as treasures that people have secured that they don't want anybody to know about. It's an odd dynamic that people will do this. And I'm assuming that people do this, and I think it is generally assumed that there are people out there who've got some Doctor Who episodes, and this is their attitude. I got this, nobody else is going to see it. I'm the only one who's got this. And again, I'm just talking from what I hear, that it is said that there are collectors who've got these things who won't surrender them. And hopefully, Film is Fabulous now can approach these people and find out who these people are, not to expose them, but to work with them and to persuade them to let go of what they've got so that other people can enjoy them. And that's really what it's all about, especially with things like Doctor Who, which still has a massive fan base, particularly now the show is off the air. People are going back to the old episodes, the old series, and rediscovering the old stuff and looking at the old stuff and wishing that more of the old stuff was still there. And if, as I think there's a chance that some of it is, I hope that Film is Fabulous will be able to work to get some of this stuff back. And beyond this statement announcing that they are now a recognised charity, there has been some online stuff I've seen on 1 and 2 forums. They have commented, particularly on Facebook. Somebody from Film is Fabulous said that, pretty much hinted that yes, there is Doctor Who on the way back. There are old Doctor Who episodes, and they mentioned at one point that the last announcement of missing episodes was 12 years ago, and people won't have to wait that long again. I think there is an announcement possibly coming within the next 6 months, I think. I mean, this is just purely conjecture on my part. I don't have any information about what's coming. Please don't assume from the thumbnail of this video, which has just taken random pictures from some missing stories. I'm not hinting that those episodes or those stories are coming back, but they are just examples of ones that aren't around. Film is Fabulous have said more or less up front now that pretty much there is more Doctor Who out there, and they are going to get a hold of it, and they will be announcing it as and when they can quite soon. How long quite soon is, I don't know. It could be 5 years rather than 12 years. It all depends on how their negotiations go. It all depends on a lot of things that they know about that we don't know about. I don't know exactly what's involved. They've got to tread carefully because people who have these things have them under sensitive circumstances, and they want to make sure that, as I said, there's no comeback on them. And they want to make sure that, and I think the BBC have always said this, they just want these things back. They will take copies of them. They will give the copies that people have back to them. There's not going to be any prosecutions, but I think some people may still be fearing that sort of thing. So hopefully Film is Fabulous now will act as a cushion and a gateway to have proper negotiations with these people who perhaps have been sitting on these things, scared to admit they've got them, sitting on these things because they want the exclusivity of it, and people who are sitting on them because they've inherited them and don't know what to do with them. Hopefully Film is Fabulous will be a bridge to sort all that out, and hopefully it will happen fairly quickly once they've established how they work and what they need to do. Because they are a charity, they need to be funded, they need to be able to pay for these things and pay for restorations and so on. But hopefully once this central organisation is known about and they are making contact with people and they're having success, people who are in the shadows with these things might be more minded to step forward and say, well, actually I've got this and I've got that. So let's keep our fingers crossed that things go our way and we do get to see some more of this stuff. And I'm not just talking about Doctor Who. As I mentioned, there's talk of at least one missing Avengers episode being out there. But going beyond that, I mean, some of the favourites I've spoken about on this channel, I would love the first two series of Ace of Wands to be found, or episodes from those two series. I know that at the convention I went to in April of this year, Michael Mackenzie, who played Taro, he did state during his interview that the world has been scoured and there are no episodes out there. They don't exist. But you hang on to that hope that someone somewhere at Thames TV lifted an episode or two. You know, you never know. Anything's possible in the world of this sort of stuff. In the world of collectors and film and cult TV, anything's possible. And Freewheelers, again, a show I talked about a few weeks ago, where the majority of its first 5 seasons are missing. There are odd quality prints of various episodes, season 1 and so on, but I don't think they're broadcast quality or commercially viable. And if episodes of things like that would come back, it would be fantastic. And anything that can be found. I think I've read recently that some old episodes of The Likely Lads have been found and they're going to be released in a new box set soon. So stuff can turn up. And bearing in mind that The Likely Lads hails from the same period as early Doctor Who, we mustn't give up hope that more Doctor Who will return. I've resigned myself over the last decade to the fact that we won't see any more old Doctor Who because it's inaccessible if it's out there. And Film is Fabulous now suggests that it isn't necessarily inaccessible. It can be found. It can be liberated. It can be made public. And I think it's interesting, if any Doctor Who episodes are found, how will they get out to the public? When Enemy of the World and Web of Fear were found, they were released quickly on DVD, but is that a format now that the BBC would want to release these episodes on? Would they want to keep them back and put them on Blu-ray sets? All that sort of stuff is to be discussed. Release them digitally, put them on the iPlayer. I don't know. Obviously, the BBC, if they get things back, will want to exploit their commercial value in some way. So I can't see them putting them on the iPlayer just randomly. But you never know. You never know. This is all new territory. And it's exciting to think that Film is Fabulous now is a recognised charity that can work with people and hopefully get some of this stuff back in the public domain. It would be fantastic if that was to happen. So before I sign off from this video, I just thought I'd ponder a little bit about what episodes I'd like to see back from the missing canon of Doctor Who. All of them really would be ideal. And there's one, we know, Feast of Stephen, I think the Christmas episode from 1965. That's, we're not going to see that because that was a part of a 12-part Daleks Master Plan series. And as a Christmas Day episode, it disrupted the flow of the story itself and was a bit of a run-around romp, a sort of a pantomime in the tradition of the season. And I don't think that was ever sold to any overseas broadcasters. And I think it was broadcast once on BBC and was quickly wiped, I would imagine, after that. It was of no repeat value. So I think that's an episode we can say with some conviction that's not going to be returned. But I think anything else is possible. I don't think everything else is possible. I don't think we're ever going to be able to say there's only one missing episode of Doctor Who. That would be impossible. I think that is impossible because some of them are gone for good. But the ones I would like to see come back, it's difficult because there's two lines of thought, really. Do we want to see the concluding episodes of stories which exist in part? I'm thinking of things like the Ice Warriors that have 2 episodes missing. The Crusade, which has a couple of episodes missing. The French Revolution story from the end of season 1, which has episodes missing. 2 episodes from Invasion are missing. Do we want to see them back to make these stories complete? Many of these have been animated, of course. We've got all these cartoons which have come out, which are fine, but they're not the originals, are they? Because they can't, because of the nature of them. They are sort of low-budget animation, which tells a story, but not with the nuance that you get from an actor's performance, particularly somebody like Patrick Troughton, who is so physical and so expressive. You can't capture that in an animation, particularly when the animators don't know what he was doing on screen. I think an example of that is the recovered episode from The Underwater Menace a few years ago. I think it's episode 3. I can't remember which one it is. And there's a bit of business he does about wearing a hat, which is a bit of slapstick, silent comedy. You can't animate that because nobody will have seen it, nobody will know what he did, and you can only appreciate that when you see the actor's performance. So whilst the animations that we've had are useful in helping to fill in the gaps, they don't always tell us the true story. So I think I would like to see some of the stories which we've seen animated because they're not completed. But on the other hand, you think, well, it would be quite nice to see some stories that we don't have anything from, because with the stories that have missing episodes, we know what the stories look like because we do have some episodes, so we get an idea of the look. But with the stories that are missing, and I'm thinking of things like Marco Polo, the Mythmakers, the Massacre at Bartholomew's Eve, we don't know anything about them other than a few still photographs. The Highlanders, the Smugglers, there are a couple of censor clips from Australia which were recovered from the Smugglers, but we don't really know much about how it looked on screen. So I'd be up for seeing episodes from those stories. Again, it would be frustrating. I don't think there's any complete stories. I think we'd be extremely lucky if a complete story comes back. Nothing's impossible, as I say, but I don't think we're going to get a full serial back. But I think I would like to see the 10th Planet because that rounds off the era, and I think it would be nice to have Hartnell's final story. It'd be nice to have part 1 of The Power of the Daleks, Patrick Troughton's first appearance. It'd be nice to have something from Evil of the Daleks. Again, I'm going back now, of course, to some stories that do exist in part. There's one episode from Evil of the Daleks. It would be nice to have a bit more because that is a classic story. Anything, I suppose, is welcome. I'll take anything that they can find. It would be nice to have a few episodes from stories that aren't represented in the archives at the moment. And it would probably help future animators make more accurate recreations of stories if they do have an episode or 2 episodes to work from. So I don't know what's out there. Certainly there's stuff there, and I think it's more than 2 episodes. I think we're probably looking, again, this is entirely random from no information that I have, nothing other than just an educated guess. I think there's maybe half a dozen episodes floating around somewhere. Maybe a lot more. We don't know. But, let's ready ourselves for something that's coming in a few months' time, hopefully a few months' time, that we will hear that there's more classic Doctor Who on the way. That would be very nice. I think particularly at the moment with the new series having apparently run its course for the moment, I think it's sort of run itself into the ground a bit. And I think it would be nice to be able to look back at some new, old classic Doctor Who that hasn't been seen for decades. So I do hope we get to hear something. Film is Fabulous say that we'll hear sooner rather than later. I'm sure as soon as they've sorted everything out that they need to sort out and they've made the clearances and made the contacts, given the reassurances to people who've got these things, they will make an announcement. They do have an event in Blackpool next month, and they're going to be showing several episodes of missing series. Now, they're not going to have Doctor Who there, but they may well announce something at that point, or they may make the position a bit clearer. So, exciting times, I think, for fans of classic Doctor Who, that the door is not closed on recoveries, and hopefully we will see some more before too long. So, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this slightly rambly video about the future of missing Doctor Who. I would like to know which episode you would like to see. I've given a rough idea of ones I think I would quite like to see, particularly from stories that we don't have anything from. But I'd love to know what episodes you'd like to see, what full stories you'd like to see, because anything's possible. As I said, I don't think we're going to get full stories. But which random episodes, which stories would you like to see recovered? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, as I said, please like and subscribe to the channel. It's all free. It's fantastic. Free. What's free in this world? You can't get anything for nothing. So like and subscribe. I will see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.